There is a misconception that moving to cloud is all about saving money. I didn't realize that. I thought really that it was, that companies that move to cloud do it in order to save money. Of course, there are other advantages, but that ultimately it's about cost saving. It turns out that that is not the case.
This is Synthesis TV, keeping you on the edge of technology and business.
I'm Howard Feldman, and this is Synthesis TV. Joining me today is Darryl Govender. He is a director of cloud at Synthesis, and we wanted to talk about this. What is some of the other advantages? Talk about time, talk about efficiency, obviously scale, but focus today on some of the other benefits of moving to cloud. Darryl, welcome. How are you doing?
Yeah, thanks very much, and thanks for having me, Howard.
So,
well, and yourself?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. But it's interesting because we're doing a few of these episodes all about cloud, and we're looking at different aspects of it. And in fact, it was you that alerted me to it. We were sitting and having a discussion the one day, and you said, people think it's all about saving money, and it really isn't, which surprised me.
Yeah.
So take us through that.
I think the saving money side is a ticket to the game. So cost savings are typically seen as a way to just get a foray into the cloud. It's typically a very underwhelming approach because you'll realize actually there's not a lot of cost savings if you're doing cloud, not in a suboptimal way, the lift and shift type approach. So one of the key things we try and educate our customers around is that time to value, realizing time to value by adopting the cloud. That's really where the value is at. And ultimately what that means is how do they get their new services, their new features in the hands of their customers sooner so that they can get a feedback loop around is it effective? Do their customers enjoy what they've released? And obviously, is it creating more market share, creating more revenue for our customers? So
well, that's why the cost discussion actually is a bit of a red herring, because as your business is increasing and as it's growing, well, your cost might grow as well. It might not cost you less than it did, but your business has benefited from it and grown from it to potentially exponentially, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So coming back to the cost savings part,
yes.
Yes, you can absolutely save some money on your current kind of estate, but that's just one side of it. And yes, that's a business priority, saving money in terms of IT.
But it shouldn't be the reason that you move into cloud, that you go on a cloud journey.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, we can probably use, maybe to build some resonance, we can use a pretty everyday example, Uber Eats. They create a lot of new features all the time. So as an example, you go and you pick.
That's what you mean by the customer loop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, okay.
So let's say you pick out from your favorite restaurant, you order X, Y, and Z, you hit next and it says, hey, what about these other things? People like these as well. Do you want to add this too? It's actually a feature that you can quickly test. The feedback might be, everyone just hits next immediately. Nobody looks at it. Or it could be that people are like, I see this, I'm actually interested in that. I didn't think of it, cool.
Right.
So you can very quickly see the value of being able to test something and what that's going to create for you in terms of more revenue or more basket or more wallet share with your customer. Another example is you then hit next and it says, do you want express delivery or standard delivery? You can see, is that an interesting feature? Do customers want their food to be delivered quicker? And then finally I saw a new feature. I'm giving myself away, I might use Uber Eats a lot. But
yeah, not a focus on food at all there, nothing.
Like a last piece might be, okay, along the way, would you like to make another stop? Maybe get some dessert or a drink from another store.
Wow, that's
so you can see all of these kind of features.
Yes, it's evolved, and it's evolved quickly.
That you can quickly get insights of, and it's all about this mindset around time to value. And the mindset is borrowing from an intelligent data strategy, and then also working backwards from your customer needs. So if you can get those features out, and your features can be based on like data insights. So again, that intelligent data strategy that says, I know how my customer uses my service. I think that based on these insights, perhaps they would like X, Y, and Z. There's also obviously the gut or more intuitive side that says, let me go and test something completely wild and see what happens, and see if it takes or not.
Which you can do.
Yeah.
You can do, and if it doesn't work, you fail fast and you move on.
Absolutely. I'm glad you said fail fast. So you think about time to value again in the context of cloud. The key thing is fail fast, fail cheaply. So obviously with cloud, being able to spin up things and shut them down very quickly, pay-per-use kind of model, you can fail cheaply. Fail fast, obviously meaning you can get that feature out, you can roll it back if customers don't like it, or you can improve it iteratively. just to make sure you get more value. And then finally, that kind of culminates in the failing forward approach, which says, I've learned from this. I know maybe I need to iterate and create something slightly different, or I need to just do something maybe do something that's the opposite. So being able to do that with the cloud creates that time to value improvement that you otherwise think you can still achieve outside of the cloud, but a lot easier to do in the cloud.
So it's interesting because as you were talking about Uber Eats, I was thinking about Uber when they first started. It was obviously just a very basic ride, but now when you go onto it, and I hadn't used Uber for a while, and I was using it quite a lot the last couple of weeks, and I hadn't even noticed that there was the Uber delivery thing, which of course makes sense because people would say, well, maybe I can get an Uber to drop something at you, and now there's an actual they've built it in as a feature, and they were just able to do that. Again, circling back to what the customer is looking for.
Yeah, and that, as a good example, is probably a combination of intuition to say like, hey, I think it makes sense. The customers might want to use this. Let's test it and let's see. And it's probably based on the insights they've got from a good data strategy. So again, cloud is well positioned to deliver a really good data strategy. Everything from the engineering level to analytics to AI ML, as we know, which is obviously quite high in terms of trending. So being able to take those insights and then be able to create those features to create more revenue opportunities for the organization, create more market share, better use of the service, better feedback, I think is ultimately the goal. I know oftentimes, to your point at the start, customers don't always see that when they start their journey. So I think very important
because you can't see what the potential is yet. You suddenly start getting all this feedback from customers and you can run with it. But it does depend on a mindset, doesn't it? Because if I go into this and I say, well, all I want to do is stay within the old-fashioned mindset, then it's actually, I'm not going to get the benefit, really.
Yeah. And the mindset's the hard part because it comes down again to a bit of people change. And we look at cloud as a people journey, actually, more than a tech journey.
Interesting there.
In the sense that, people are actually enacting, either putting these new ideas in place or looking at those insights to derive new potential features, etc. And then, of course, there's skills that come with this type of transformation. So people being able to leverage technologies in the cloud and really optimize for a customer use case. All of those things take a little bit of time, and obviously there's a
confidence because it's got to be quite scary to go on a journey to some extent that you don't know where it's going to go, because you could start off here, you know why you need to cloud enable, but actually you don't know what the opportunities are. In fact, your business might pivot, to use another trending word, quite extensively once you start getting different feedback from customers.
So with the cloud journey and the whole sense of it being underwhelming if you're taking the wrong approach, very easy to do. And I think oftentimes customers do get a bit underwhelmed with the journey, feeling they're not really getting the benefit, but it's because they haven't necessarily shifted the mindset.
So how do we do that? How do you help customers to shift that mindset? Because otherwise, and there's no worse word for me than underwhelming. Like I hate anything to do with just boring, and underwhelming is boring, and there's almost no point. How do we not overwhelm, because that's probably not what we're looking to do either, but how do you help customers along the way to maximize that benefit?
I think for us, the key one is to actually speak about it very openly from the start. What is the fundamental benefit? And the fundamental benefit is agility in your organization. So we talk about the key metric being time to value, but time to value speaks very directly to business agility.
Right.
So being able to speak about that very openly, and then being able to educate around, it is a journey. There's we need to understand the current kind of mindset and philosophy in the organization, and then how that's going to be changed and ideally improved, actually. And I know typically in any form of change management, there's a little bit of, kind of kicking up the feet around it, and maybe dragging feet as well around just being able to.
And you could have certain personalities within an organization, which sometimes can really do damage, unfortunately.
We've seen it, the dynamics around the individuals in an organization as well, understanding how the organization works, their values as well. Like it all ties into this journey, because it is fundamentally a transformative journey. But I think speaking openly, talking through our experience around what we've seen, and using customer references, ideally trying to build resonance with similar customers or similar industries.
Right.
All of those things help.
Yes.
But really it's about that transparency and fully open cards.
And
around
open. You've said open a few times,
Yeah.
which is obviously the thing, is to just try and have these very real conversations
Yeah.
and go on the journey together as partners.
Yes.
Because if you come in simply as a service provider, you might not get the understanding of culture, of values, and all of these types of things, which is important.
Yeah, I think sometimes we also can get sucked into it's a technical consideration, this whole cloud thing, and it's really not.
Well, it's so funny because, really into this discussion, and we haven't spoken about technology at all, actually. It's all about business.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I think for customers to realize this is going to help you have a more agile business at the end of the day, which actually to compete, I think you have to be highly adaptable in today's world.
Yeah, you do.
It's so easy.
And quick on your feet.
Yeah. So and the size actually of the organization technically doesn't matter anymore because you've seen all of these up and coming kind of startups who have really come in and disrupted by just being able to move quickly. So fundamentally, organizations being able to counteract that with the use of cloud as an enabler, I think can create a lot of value for them.
So how long? Oh, no, let me ask a bit differently. Maybe what is the process? So a customer comes to you, they haven't really they know about this cloud business. They know that they need to move forward. What is the process for them?
So typically they would look at it and they'd try and do an apples and apples comparison, which is really, really hard. You can do a tangible comparison that says, hey, dollars and cents, I'm paying X, cloud is Y. But that's like really tip of the iceberg around the actual value, because like we've been talking about, that's not actually
That's not what you're doing this for. Only.
The non-tangibles are more interesting, but they're harder to quantify. So the non-tangibles being like how much faster can I actually move? How much cheaper can these experiments be to my organization, etc. Those types of things. Being able to quantify that by using their roadmap and using that roadmap information and input as a way to quantify some of the non-tangible bits, I think that helps quite a bit. And it also adds a lot more value on top of the apples versus apples comparison as well. So I think that's typically a good start. But ultimately what it means is we're speaking quite openly and transparently with our customer around not just this one tangible piece, which is dollars and cents kind of costs, but what is the value around being able to
and how do you advise, because there are different cloud platforms, and without going to the specifics of any of them, how does one advise a customer to go in on one route or another?
I think it ultimately comes down to their specific use case. The truth is a lot of the hyperscalers today have good parity in terms of their features.
I would imagine,
So in some cases, if I'm honest, it comes down to preference, organizational preference around who they want to engage.
Oh, that's interesting. Wow.
So again, maybe an analogy would be like picking from the big three German luxury car brands.
Right.
Yes. They've got a lot of similar
you're not making a mistake with any of them.
No.
You're not going wrong. There's no wrong decision, really, I would imagine.
So it's taking those kind of variables around what the organization actually uses, what they prefer, and what they're trying to achieve. And the truth is you can typically achieve the same outcomes with any of the big three. But then ultimately trying to find the exact fit for them. And it's funny how it typically works around this stuff. You usually find a combination of a multi-cloud strategy where you're keeping your options kind of open because you can.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Do you find that customers in general are excited to go on it but nervous, or are they? Do we have reluctant customers?
Yeah, I think, and it depends on the personas at play. Sometimes you'll
the
find
people
some of the techies they'll be super gung-ho. They'll be like, let's get on this journey, let's do it now.
Of course,
and then others will be like, I don't know if I want to learn a new technology at the moment. I'm kind of comfortable doing X, Y, and Z. If you look at it from a financial perspective, when the CFO, as an example, looks through the numbers in the business case, he might be like, okay, this actually looks quite interesting. And they're working out when's payback in the next few years, all of this kind of stuff.
So everybody's looking at it through their own lens.
Yeah, and it depends on that specific personality and maybe their specific KPIs as well, whether it's a reluctant lens or it's an exciting lens.
Interesting.
So we see it across the business, the different types of roles have different views around it. The key thing, I think, Howard, is everyone's got to have some level of excitement to go on the journey. There's got to be some
because
level of
look at
buy-in.
the blue sky here. Look at
Yeah.
the opportunities.
Yeah.
You know, how this can really transform a business.
Yeah, so if there's reluctance, and majority of reluctance in the organization, whether it's the tech side of the organization, or the business side, or the financial side, that's where we see failure to launch in terms of the cloud transformation.
It's so interesting. I always think of the irony here that reluctance is because, you know, things have always worked,
Yeah.
and you think you're safe
Yeah.
in the old style, but actually, ironically, that's where you're least safe.
Yeah.
You know, in order to protect your business for the future and to make it more viable, sustainable, you actually need to go on these journeys. You need to be able to give yourself the agility that your business will need.
Yeah. To your point, you use the word safe. I would say maybe that's the comfort zone. And is the comfort zone ever a good place for a business to be? Probably not.
Well, I don't think it's a good place for any of us to be, but that's a whole different discussion. Darryl, just to wrap it up, what to you is going into a company that hasn't yet gone on the journey?
Yeah.
What is the most exciting thing for you?
I think if people look at the opportunity to leverage something like the cloud to accelerate their business, be more agile, be more adaptable, to create more value, create more satisfied customers, expand their business, go global, I think those aspects are very exciting. And for companies to actually look at that as the opportunity and then take the steps, take the measured steps to try and realize that if it makes sense for them. And from our experience, it's made sense for 100% of our customers.
I have no doubt. Darryl Govender, thank you. Sure. As always, I'd love to hear about your cloud journey, about your cloud reluctance, about your cloud success. Let us know, comment below, subscribe to the channel, and let us know what you want to talk about. I'm Howard Feldman. This has been an episode of Synthesis TV.